How are you guys doing tonight? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV, and welcome to another 3 talking points video after our 2-0 win over Spurs last night. The 3 points I'm going to be focusing on will be Kante's development under Sarri, has Sarri given up on Sarriball, and Sarri starting to adapt. But quickly before I get into things, today's video is brought to you by the OneFootball app. For me, it's the best football companion app to have because it's a great source of news, player stats, information, match facts, etc, etc. You can tailor the news you see on your feeds with the OneFootball app depending on who you follow. Now you could follow players or clubs and you'll get daily updates from all the news on the player or the club from across Europe. Just another reason why I think it's best to download the OneFootball app. And if you want to help me out and help support the channel, in the link in the description below will be a download link to download the app. Thanks for your time and getting straight into the video. Starting with the first talking point, we need to talk about Kante's development under Sarri. As you can see, I'm quite excited. I've been saying for a while now that I feel like Kante can evolve and become another Michael Essien. Essien was one of the most complete midfield players you'll ever see. He could do everything in midfield, and I feel that with Kante because he's a very exceptional footballer. Let's not take that away from him. And I always envisioned that Sarri could really coach Kante to really get the best out of him and to really help him improve his overall offensive game. And since the start of this year, we're starting to see a much more offensive N'Golo Kante. And I feel like over the past few games now, we've seen Kante step up to reach another level. And I think that's down to very smart tactical tweaks made by Sarri. Now, what are the tweaks that Sarri has made that's helped Kante reach another level? The tweak comes in tandem with our recent tactical shift to becoming a team that doesn't press as high or as aggressive. You know, our defensive line is much deeper now. We like to sit back and keep our shape and to make sure we're very compact in the middle. And now that Sarri's had the midfield 3 become a flat midfield 3 that stay in position together, we've got Kante covering that half space position, meaning that Aspi and Rudiger are going to get defensive support, as well as Jorginho on top of that. Playing this way makes you realise Kante's intelligent defensive positional sense. You see his great ability when it comes to winning 50-50 tackles as well. He's made so many key and decisive tackles. I personally feel too like his defensive understanding has been very good. You know, he reads the danger much better when he's able to show that he can read danger and he can prevent things from happening just by getting in the right position first. And because Kante is in a deeper position, that means that when he then gets the ball, he's able to show that he can progress forward with it. He goes on those dynamic forward runs that really helps transition our play, and that ability to start attacks was the same thing he was doing when Leicester won the league that season. And it falls back to a point I say every single time. Football's all about having players playing in the right system that gets the best out of their best attributes. And of course, with the way Sarri's using Kante now, we see the absolute very best of him. Kante really has become an all-round box-to-box midfield player now. I feel like he can get a few more goals in him, but I think that's going to come over time. But we're already noticing that Sarri is making these tactical tweaks. For example, normally when we start our pressing, what tends to happen is our number 8 pushes up alongside the forwards and we temporarily become a 4-4-2 team. Now Sarri's done it differently. Now he allows Kante to be that guy that pushes forward in line with the forwards to kickstart our press. And again, that smart tactical tweak is showing that extra percentage of what Kante can provide. The role that Sarri is using Kante now is his best position. I don't think there's any debating that anymore because he's much more than just a limited defensive midfield player. And it goes to prove that Sarri was always right when it comes to Kante and his use of the player. And hopefully now some of the naysayers might maybe, retract back their statements. And hopefully some of the naysayers are going to calm down a bit now and start to understand and trust our manager. Now moving on to the second point, and has Sarri given up on Sarriball? Reports are coming out that Sarri has been listening to the squad and he has been listening to their suggestion of playing much more defensive and more deep, by having the defensive line drop back more so the team can be deeper and more compact. Now for me, it's no surprise that most likely Aspi and Alonso are big advocates for this change in the system, because it has been highlighting the lack of technical ability to play this style of football. But at the same time, of course, if you know that the squad can't really adapt 100% to your demands for the system, common sense tells you that you do have to adapt to the strengths of your team. But I have been reading stuff from people suggesting that Sarri is giving up on the Sarriball system and adopting a new way of football. It really isn't the case. If you were listening closely to my first talking point, I mentioned a lot that Sarri is making smart tweaks to the team and how we play in the system. We're not doing anything new really. For example, whenever we play, we use about 4 formations in a game. When we start our press, we become a 4-4-2 team. Then we move back to a 4-3-3 team. If the opposition team have the ball in our half, we revert back into our own half and become a 4-5-1 team. When we're on the ball in the opponent's half, sometimes we do become a 4-2-3-1. So, we're very flexible in regards to how we use many formations in the game. But the massive notable thing that Sarri has done is bringing back the defensive line, pushing it back deeper, and not having the team press so aggressively and so high. They're the 2 main things that Sarri has done differently. And from those 2 main things, of course, you can fine-tune things even more. For example, having a flat midfield 3 that come back, and you've got guys like Kante and Kante covering the half-space positions, that helps give the team even more defensive support. It helps the wide players even more defensively. Plus, it makes it harder for opposition teams to play in the half spaces and between the lines. Now, one thing I have mentioned here for a while is that the only realistic plan B that Sarri could do wasn't to just do something drastic like, move Kante to DM or play 4-2-3-1 in a different formation. No, for me, I kept telling you guys, all he can do really is have us playing much deeper, stopping us from pressing as high and as aggressively, because one thing I keep saying all the time now is that we're weak on the transition. If you notice, all the goals we can see normally come from counter-attacks out wides. And that's something that Sarri's finally accepted. Of course, we're not the best pressing team. I've been saying for a while, we don't have the personnel to really press as aggressively or as well. And, I look at the standard from clubs like Liverpool and Man City, etc., etc. Look how aggressive they are when they press. We don't have that same intensity, and I feel like with the personnel in the team, we just can't fully live up to that style of football. And our weakness in our pressing has been one of the main things that's really given Sarri a lot to think about, because we can't fully play attacking football if it means that we are going to be porous on the counter-attack. But Nini, can you still call this Sarriball? And in a sense, yeah, I can. One of the main things I keep saying all the time is the fact that if we really struggle to play out from the back, if we didn't have that composure and patience in beating the press and playing through that and starting attacks out from deep, then I'd say that we can't play Sarriball, because for me, that's like the foundation of the system. If you can't do that, you can't do anything. Instead, all Sarri has done is adapted the system to the players. Yes, we have been playing deeper and closer to our own goal, but the foundations are still there. Whenever we have the ball out deep, do players just hoof it long? They never do. We keep the ball, we keep possession, we always look to play out. We don't just lose the ball and kick it out of fear. And for me, it's kind of like the best of both worlds, One, it proves that Sarri is an amazing manager, and I think that people need to stop doubting his credentials now. And 2, obviously Sarri's a great coach. He's got these guys to be better footballers in that sense, because look at the players under Mourinho and Kante. Kante especially. We didn't have any of these passing patterns to play out. A lot of times players would get closed down and they'd have to hoof the ball out long. It wasn't good enough because Kante wasn't the style of manager to coach that style of football. But Sarri is. And Sarri's giving us another dimension now to our game. And for me, I don't mind waiting for the release of Sarriball for next season. I'll stick with a beta version of Sarriball for now, if it means that we can get a Champions League spot for next season. And to end on my final point, Sarri has adapted. Now for me, Sarri has reacted incredibly well for a manager under so much pressure, and that's because his main ethos, the main thing he's only thinking about, is getting the best out of the team and out of the squad. And because of that, he's realised that he has to adapt how he's trying to instill his thoughts and ideas on the team, maybe try and slow it down a bit, and to focus on the most important thing, which is trying to be here for next season and obviously not getting sacked. We've seen with managers like Kante and Mourinho, when they have been under pressure, they have reacted very negatively. They become more arrogant, they become less humble, not really willing to listen to new ideas. And for me, it's like they've almost like sealed their fate. But instead, Sarri has turned to the squad, he's listened to them, he's adapted things. You know, his handling of the Kepa situation was amazing, it was perfect, it was mature. And he dealt with the player in such a way where I can't imagine any of the players losing any respect for him. Instead, they just maintained their good performance from that game against Man City, brought that to the Tottenham game last night. And for me, that's another sign of a great manager. When it comes to managing, it's not just about tactics, you know, it's about the managing of the squad and the players as well. And if you can win the squad over, it's going to make your life easier. Even for myself, you know, I make a lot of like critical observations when I'm watching football. I said a lot of things about Kante and Mourinho, but during those times, you know, when did we ever see any of the things happening on the pitch that we all wanted to see? It never happened. But under Sarri, it's like the first time I've seen a Chelsea manager that has been willing to do so many different things to try and get things working. You know, a lot of criticisms I've had of Sarri have been things like, you know, not using Ruben and Hudson-Odoi as much, not using Emerson enough, for being too strict by using 14 players and not rotating with the team as much, and for not embracing the other characteristics of the squads, you know, for example, us looking much better when we do play more direct, and maybe for us to be much more compact if we can't really get this pressing game on point. And we've seen that Sarri has come to these conclusions himself. I mean, most likely he already knew them from time, but obviously he wants to stick with this plan A. But Sarri is making all the corrections he's needed to make to really kickstart the season again. And I think that all of us Chelsea fans feel excited for how the season's gonna end, how we're gonna do in Europe as well, and how this team develops in the future. But anyway, you guys, that's gonna bring it in for today's 3 talking points video. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NiniFC. This is Blue Line CV, signing out.